1937, the UK was in the middle of the Depression. King George V had just died, and Prince Edward was to be king. However, Edward abdicated and his younger brother Bertie became King George VI. Meanwhile, at a bungalow in Benfleet, Essex, my mother, a frail little lady of 5 foot and weighing only 6 stone, is giving birth to me. A whole month late at 10 months. My father's insurance, there was no NHS back then, could only run to a doctor with a midwife in attendance, so the delivery was at home. Nurse!
Yes, doctor.
Leave baby for now. We've got a hemorrhaging mother here. We'll have to deal with that first.
Oh dear, okay then.
My Auntie Amy, who lived next door to us in Benfleet, was in the next room. Wondering what all the noise was about, she peeked through the door into the bedroom to see the doctor and midwife trying to revive my mother, whilst I had been dumped into a chair to fend for myself. She picked me up, wrapped me up in a blanket, and cuddled me tightly. I came back to life. Auntie Amy had saved my life. Apparently I should have been a twin, but my mother fell down the stairs and had a miscarriage. However, the miscarriage was my twin, and I survived, which is why I hibernated in the womb for 10 months.
This is London. You will now hear a statement by the Prime Minister.
I am speaking to you from the Cabinet Room at 10 Downing Street. This morning, the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
Anyway, in 1939, we were whisked off to Fort George, where my dad was billeted in the Seaforth Highlanders, and we lived there in married quarters in Fort George, and I've got a very strong Scottish accent, and yeah, we lived in the married quarters there, and then of course Hitler did invade us for a little while because it was what they called the phony war, so we were sent back to Walthamstow again. Well, I've got me Tammy Shunt as well. And here we are back in Fort George. This is where we used to live, in the married quarters. Amazingly enough, it was somewhere around here where I was playing with my little girlfriend, William Anderson. We were pretending to be soldiers, and I had a stick, going to be a trumpet, and I fell, went right down my throat, and I had to go to the MO and have it taken out surgically. I've still got a scar there now, but isn't it beautiful? Parts, let's see, where we first walked in. There's the gate over there. This beautiful cedar tree. And this is part of the Oldham Common that we used to play in. It's hard to think that we used to play in this, but we did, because we used to make
camp and things in the gorse bushes where they're all have golden flowers on them. That's why it was called Golden Common. Here we are. This is the Golden Common, and I say called the Golden Common because of these gorse bushes, and when they're in full flower, of course, there's golden flowers on them, so hence Golden Common. So, and we used to actually come in here, us kids, that's me and Pat and Eileen and Weena Anderson, that's my little girlfriend at the time, and of course this pathway wasn't there, but look at this, there's actually wild geraniums.
In fact, it was here in the wilds of Scotland that I became something of a nature boy, making friends with all the local animals, whereas and birds greet the morning with open arms. Nature meets you with all her charms. A floral carpet of varied hue. We're all part of it. Yes, me and you. Sparkling waters, the dancing trees, the glittering flight of diamond beams, the silent ripple of violet scents. We're all part of the element. Imagine what a shock it was for a 2-3-year-old to leave all that wonderful wildlife behind and the lovely Scottish Highlands and go back to London during the Blitz. And, you know, all the bombs dropping, the flying bombs, and there were lots of those doodlebugs. We got a near miss at one time. So it was a bit traumatic, and I always maintain that's what set me off on the course to being not only a peace campaigner but also an environmentalist. But more about that later. When we moved from Fort George, we went to Walthamstow and lived with my Auntie Amy and Uncle Bert for a while. We were then offered a Walner flat in Brettenham Road, Walthamstow, but I didn't like the look of the flats. I don't like this street, Mummy, I told my mum. But then we approached the actual flat and I smelt the fragrance coming from the uncut privet hedge. Oh, I do like it, Mummy, I said, smelling the flowers. We went into the flat and we confronted by a long, dark corridor. I don't like it, I stated. But then we went into the front room and I saw a butterfly on the front window. This reminded me of the wildlife in Scotland, and again I changed my mind. I do like this house, Mummy. Once the Blitz started, we lived most of our time in the shelter. Sometimes Mum would wake us up at night and there'd be a Blitz and we'd have to go down the shelter. But one night we were laying there and we heard the droning of a doodlebug going over us, and my mum put her arms across us all because it clicked, stop, right above our shelter, and then we heard the huge explosion going off. We all rushed out, which is the last thing you do in a dogfight, but we did it in the Blitz. But and we, the bottom of our road was ablaze. It was on fire, so we knew people had died. And my next door neighbour's curtains were in the big oak tree at the bottom of the garden, which I always thought was a bit of comfort for us, the oak tree. But I'll tell you more about the oak tree and the old owl that lived in it later. But my uncle Alf was actually an ARP warden, air raid police warden, and he cycled all the way from the other side of the town and looked in our shelter once we got back there to make sure we were safe. During the Blitz, all the wildlife, the birds and urban foxes and such like, all left London. Even butterflies and such like left London because of the bombing. What hadn't been killed or killed by shock by the bombs going off just left and went out into the countryside and further up the country, except for one owl that lived in a huge oak tree that was at the bottom of our garden overhanging our shelter. And for some reason that oak tree and that old owl always gave me comfort. It was always there all day, but at night, of course, it used to go out hunting, presumably living on the rats that were bombed out of the sewers in London. So we suffered the Blitz and the dog fights and the doodlebugs, but when the rockets started coming over, the V2s, we went back to Scotland, but this time to Elgin.
Alright, Old Mills Road, and that was a farm that Pat used to pick potatoes on and so on. And here is Old Mills Cottage. This is the actual cottage that we lived in. Old Mills Cottage. During the war. The lady... Oh, look at that! There's but this cottage is... We lived... Mrs. McLean owned it at the time with Mary McLean, and her husband was called James, and her son also was called James. And then there was Mary was a little girl, and little Willie was, and then opposite was this bigger house, which we used to have some kids in there from London too. We used to play with them. But you see, Old Mills Cottages sale, and the lady that lives there now is kindly going to let us look inside the house, which was something we've been able to do before. And I left here when I was 7 or 8 years old, and there's Nicky taking photographs. Alright babe, yeah, there, isn't he?
Take a picture of you.
Yeah, well, I'll take a picture of you while you're taking a picture of me. And this was the granary where he used to play with the children. I remember the girl was called Leslie, but the old lady that owned this, she used to let us go in the garden and play, because there wasn't much of a garden obviously in the cottage. But this one here, there's a car going past there, but that room there is where we actually lived, and there's no bit of a garden there. But this was the old mill, and of course this is the grounds of the granary, which is quite a big manor house. Say the lady used to allow us to play in here, which was rather nice. And that's where I used to walk to school, down that lane there, past the old mill, and which was a working mill then. It's not now, unfortunately. But we can see there's Nicky coming down here now in the car, coming past Old Mills Cottage. And there's the mill. Shame because it's a bit derelict now, and I don't know what the man's going to do with it, but that mill actually worked, a working mill, because the water's still running through there, I should imagine. And our man owns it now, apparently, I'm told. And in there, the farm, Farmer Nicholson, we used to help him with the cows, and he had chickens and everything. We used to help him with all that. There you go. And now I think we're going to make our way down there, which is where we used to walk to school. Lovely. Thank you. Back to my darling wife sitting in the car. There we are, in the room that we used to live in Old Mills Cottage, and that's the view we had outside. And this is actually the room. It's really, to be honest with you, it hasn't changed that much from what I remember. Mind you, I was only 7 or 8 when I lived here, so yeah, I'll just take it as far as Nicky, because there you are. What do you think? Yeah, that is amazing. Oh wow. Well, I'm overwhelmed. And look at the old fireplace there, yeah.
So would the granary have been there? All these houses would have been there, wouldn't there? The granary across there?
The granary, actually, yes, because that old house there, I remember, I think there were some other children who used to live there. Upstairs, there's the stairs we just come up, and there's another room here. Oh well.
Right, sure.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, sorry.
This is one of the upstairs bedrooms as well, which I don't know, I can't remember whether we actually had a separate bedroom or we were just in that room. I don't know. So, a lot of it hasn't changed, it's only the signs and things, a lot of shops are much the same. And then, but we used
When we returned to London after the war, I went out onto the bomb site and I was amazed to see all the flowers growing in the bomb site, and that attracted insects to pollinate, and then birds to eat the insects, and that was the moment that I must have become an environmentalist, and also, of course, peace campaigner, because I couldn't understand how my fellow human beings could consider themselves civilised when they kept killing each other, and on top of that destroying the good earth and all of nature.
What are we doing? Fighting each other. She is my sister, he is my brother. What will we leave them for some future day? We got to show the children the way. We have to show the children the way. Love each other. We have to show the children how. Teach them to live together in perfect harmony, loving and living, taking